What do you think differentiates techno from EDM and from their genres? Production style, vibe, like the culture? Right. What do you think?
I mean, you just hit like a pretty key point is culture. Techno it's its own culture. Detroit had a huge, the whole East Coast, New York, Detroit, Chicago, like from disco to house music to techno, all those new producers, they just want to be different and they wanted to like play with these instruments and see what they can come up with, so I think that they started a movement that they didn't even think that was going to happen.
So you're a natural born party thrower, basically. Let's just call it what it is.
I think I got my experience there in high school. My freshman year, I think I only went like 30 days to school and some of it was like teaching parties. It's going to be 10 years in May, and I think we're going to celebrate the 10 years during EDC week. Once you get involved into that group of people, the techno scene becomes extremely small, worldwide, Their ear is pretty sensitive to the melodies. Mm-hmm. If the melodies don't keep you into a trance, you're going to wake up right away, and then you're going to realize where you're at, and you need to go to the bathroom, or you need to go to the bar, or you need to go do something else. But if you don't wake up, if the melodies continue to go one after the other, you're just going to get stuck in the dance floor and you're just going to keep dancing. For some reason, you feel good there.
Right.
But you don't know why.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. This is exciting.
Let's dive right in.
All right. Sounds good.
I want to talk about Techno Taco Tuesday.
All right.
You started one of the most legendary underground parties, if I dare say legendary, in Las Vegas. It's long running. It's practically an institution. And I want to know how it came about.
Oh, yeah. So it's been now 10 years. Actually, it's going to be 10 years in May. And I think we're going to celebrate the 10 years during EDC week. The headliners are still we're still debating on who we're going to have. But anyways, the way that it started was back in 2014. Myself and Lance, the co-founder, we had an opportunity to start a brand new party at a taqueria, tacos and beer. And our friend was a GM there. So our friend gave me a call and he was like, hey, would you like to come and help us out, start a party here? And so I was thinking great, yeah, let's do it. Hopefully it's a Friday, Saturday night, But no, he's like, let's do a Tuesday night. And I'm like, what, a Tuesday night? I'm like, oh my God. Previously, I had a Tuesday night at Vanguard in downtown. Mm-hmm. And it was called Uppercut Tuesdays, which was pretty successful as well, but it only lasted about 2 years, I think. And then we kind of moved it to a Thursday night and it died off. And so when I had this opportunity, I kind of wanted to move out of downtown because at that point, downtown was getting a little bit too popular in a way. This is around Tony Hsieh came into town and he moved into downtown and started the whole thing with Downtown Project. And so at that time, nights would be getting a little bit rough in downtown. So I decided to move out of there and start a new party in a area that it wasn't too much for bar hopping in a way. Right. So I wanted to be a very a specific location, kind of destination where people will go and just go for the party, not because they were going to go bar hopping, So, right. And so when my friend called me, I was like, yeah, I was excited. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And at that time, Lance was a bartender at Tacos and Beer. So he was like, why don't you guys work together and then do it together, So I was like, yeah, that's fine. At that time, Lance, I had known Lance for a year or so. He was DJing for me a lot in downtown as well. So I liked him and I was like, yeah, it'll be easy to work with him, At that time, Lance was just starting to DJ as well. So So, anyways, we
And this
decided
is
to
Lance LaRock.
Yeah, Lance
to
LaRock.
specify, yes.
Yeah, and
Shout out to Lance.
Yeah. Hopefully, I get to see him soon. But yeah, so we started to like think about like the name, like what are we gonna call it? You know, it's gonna be on a Tuesday night. At that time, I wanted to create a party that was going to be more like a house party where people can come in and just hang out. Nobody will bug them, you know, no security at the door or, you know, like giving them a hard time or anything like that. So I wanted to create like a chill event, you know, a very welcoming event. So we were thinking about the name. And so I wanted to be the name of the party to be very straightforward, you know, like in terms of what the party was going to be about. And so obviously here in the States, you know, Taco Tuesday is pretty famous thing,
right?
or a thing to do on Tuesdays, you know. So I decided that we wanted just to play techno at the event, and so we're like, you know, why don't we just call it Techno Taco Tuesday, because it's like techno and then there's gonna be tacos and it's a Tuesday night, so it just makes perfect sense. We didn't think it was gonna take off the way that it did. I mean, our goal was to like, you know, keep it for 2 years, and then that's the goal, and after that then we can create a different party, you know.
Right.
So, but we had no idea what was going to happen. So anyways, we started it, and then it was just me and him. And then we eventually started having friends come and help us out, you know, because obviously we needed to take equipment into the place, into Tacos and Beer, because they didn't have like a sound system.
Right.
So we needed to bring in CDJs and, you know, a sound system to make the party happen. And the goal for it to make it like popular within just like the local scene was to bring in all of our friends, all over the DJs that we know, you know, invite them to come and play with us, you know. And this is the reason that we start creating these lineups with like 5-6 DJs throughout the night, and just giving them an hour set. Sometimes we'll do back-to-backs just to fit in more DJs. But the whole thing was so that the word would be out there about Techno Taco Tuesday, a new party, you know, on a Tuesday night, and it was just for like locals in a way. And then the second part of the goal was to bring in like resident DJs or regional DJs from like all the cities, towns around Vegas, so that the word would be spread about Techno Taco Tuesdays as well in other cities, you know. So and then we'll start doing that, I think, after 6 months, because in 6 months, I think we went through all the local DJs here, so that we knew off of, you know. There's eventually, I think there was a lot of other DJs that we didn't knew at that time, and we didn't get to invite them, but that was because we didn't know they were there, you know. But yeah, so then in 6 months after, we started inviting like friends from LA, from Phoenix, you know, Salt Lake City, and so and then the word kind of started spreading throughout Southern California about Techno Taco Tuesday, and it was great, I think, because it was like, you know, Tuesday is one of those days that it's like a day off. It's a weekend for a lot of the industry people, you know. And so a lot of our friends were working at nightclubs, you know, from being hostess to promoters to DJs as well. And so Tuesdays is a night off for them. And so they get to actually come and hang out and party, you know.
Right.
Because on the weekends they get to work. So
right.
So yeah, and then like the third part of the goal was to eventually have headliners come in. And we're thinking it was going to take us like about 1.5 years or so to get our first headliner. And I think that happened within 10 or 11 months of the party being started. And I think our first headliner was, who was it? It's kind of hard to remember, but I think it was, Jesus, why can't I say his name? Anyways, I'll research it and I'll let you know in a few.
Right.
And so he lives in Southern California too, so it was very easy for us to bring him over here. and after that, I think our first big headliner for our 1 year anniversary was Fur Code. And at that time, obviously, Fur Code was it was pretty known, I think.
Right.
And so we had a great party. You know, I think we had like maybe like 400 to 500 people that night. So yeah, that was great. And then
you packed the place because that's capacity for
of course
for tacos and
I think that was
time.
the first time that we started to do the tent.
Right.
So obviously because of
I missed
tacos
the
and
tent.
beer.
I missed that location. It was so good.
It was unique. You know, it was a little thing that it kind of gave you the feeling of a festival, kind of like an outdoor festival, maybe, but
block
not really.
Party.
You know, yeah, block party. Like, you know, it was just unique, I think. But yeah,
it was
that was
neighborhood with really good headline music.
Yes.
That's basically what it was.
Yeah, no,
it was like a block party with great DJs. So
yeah, and it was a destination because it wasn't like you know, you go to the Strip and then you can go from one place to another, or you go to downtown and then you can go from one place to another. You know, it wasn't like that. So, and this didn't exist. You know, there wasn't that many events either in Vegas, so it was kind of great. You know.
Right. So you're talking 2014, basically. Let's see. Headliners on the Strip would have been Steve Aoki, Tiesto.
Actually, Tiesto came in. We had a lot of guys that came in because it was like they will play on the weekend and they'll stay here for like, you know, a few other days after they played. And so we had some very interesting, you know, DJs come in, Diplo and stuff like that. Just to party. But yeah. It was interesting to see that.
The environment. So the underground scene, aside from Techno Taco, was there a strong underground scene here at that time?
You know, it's been like, I would say, years of that the scene is kind of being built up and then it kind of just disappears. And then there's another promoter that comes in and it builds it up and then it disappears, you know, and so, I mean, I grew up here in Vegas. And so, I seen it happen multiple times with different DJs. You know, I think Edgar Reyes had it for a while with Soul Kitchen. Which it was the same thing too. It was a during the week event, you know. And then prior to that, I think, he was here through early 2000s, you know. So he had a good party, you know, that lasted like a while. I mean, till now he eventually does like once a year or so now. But yeah, I think that party lasted like over 15 years or more.
Soul Kitchen.
Yeah, Soul Kitchen. So, but yeah, when I came into the scene, when I started to DJ and I wanted to get more out there into like this kind of events that were happening around the city, which it wasn't that many, it was kind of tough to like get an opportunity to DJ. It's not like it is now, you know, where like anybody can play any party, you know. But it was tough. It was like pretty like locked down, and it was only a certain group of DJs that could play those parties. Yes, it was extremely clicky.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I wasn't gonna do with my events. You know, I wanted to change that. And a lot of people didn't work with each other, you know, it was very cliquey. So like if you would work with these people, like, yeah, you wouldn't want to go and play somebody else's party. You know? So it was like that. And I think when I started to come around these events and try to play for these people, like, and I wouldn't get an opportunity, then that's the time that I was like, I'm just going to do my own parties.
Do your own party.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully I grew up here. And so I had like a good bunch of like friends, you know, and I was doing house parties during high school as well. And so
you're a natural born party thrower, basically. Let's just call it what it is.
I mean, I think I got my experience during high school. My freshman year, I think I only went like 30 days to school, and the rest of it was like teaching parties. But yeah, I mean, I got my fair share of experience in high school.
You started DJing in 99? Is that right?
Yeah, 99. And I didn't take it serious till like probably 2004, 2005. That's kind of when I was like, okay, I think there's a chance for me to do this for a living. And then in 2008, I was like, okay, I'm doing this full time.
Right.
So
were you drawn to techno from the beginning, or were you in a different space?
It was interesting because like I started going to raves when I was like 14 with my older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, back then you would go to these parties or raves and they would have multiple rooms.
Right.
Where, you know, drum and bass, you had techno, you had happy hardcore in another room. Another room you have like trip up or like very like chill music, you know. So it was depending on how, in what, I guess, stage of the drug you were in.
Right.
You know, you were feeling like, okay, I want to go more like to chill. Then you go to the chill room. Or if you
that was the beauty back then. Yes. I think you're referring to basically like 90s kind of.
In 90s,
warehouse parties and vibes where you can.
Yeah.
It was like that on the East Coast too. And that was what was amazing.
Yeah. And I think that opens you up to so many different genres, you know, music. And so... but techno didn't fully like, I didn't want to go full into it till like maybe 2010, 2011. That's when I was like, got tired of what was out there and what we're like doing as well. Because during the 2006 through 2010, I got super deep into like electro. But then electro, you like in Europe, it was like a little bit different. It was more a little like darkish, electro-ish techno.
Right.
So I started following a lot of those producers. And so that's kind of what I was playing over here. And then it got to a point where electro went like pop.
Yeah, there was a point where electro kind of there was a techno influence direction and there was full EDM.
EDM, yes.
And that's the birth of kind of the poppy EDM. I think, and touching on that real quick, I see a lot of things online where newer enthusiasts of house music, clubland, techno are grouping in techno with EDM, and they think that EDM is a blanket for all the genres
of electronic music. Yeah.
Yes. And I made a comment recently and I said, just techno's not EDM.
Yeah.
And the person online asked me respectfully, I'm not, trying to gaslight, but like, what's the difference? And so in your words to people who are new, and they're also loving the techno movement right now.
Yeah.
What do you think differentiates techno from EDM and from, other genres? Production style, the vibe, like the culture.
Right.
What do you think?
I mean, you just hit like a pretty key point is culture. Techno it's its own culture. Right. It's not, EDM. So EDM is known. I think it's a very, very plain name for electronic music. Basically, that's what it is. Electronic dance music.
Right.
But what they refer to EDM is more like pop. House music or pop, electro or whatever, because it's very hard to define the genre, especially when the producers are mixing everything into it, so a little bit of house, a little bit of electro, a little bit of pop. And so it's kind of hard to pinpoint it. And so the easiest way you can explain it to someone that has never ever heard electronic music, somebody that comes from like maybe a hip hop background or like country music background, like how can you explain it to them? Or maybe like someone that is like 60 years old that has never listened to electronic music, how can you explain it to them? So the easiest term is EDM. It's like, oh, EDM is like pop. Like, okay. But I mean, techno in the 90s is like how like maybe pop music was born, so a lot of the like even pop techno or artists that were producing techno or what techno was called here in the United States in the 90s is what we call pop now, so
Interesting.
It's just it changes and it varies, and like it's kind of hard to, for us it's very easy to differentiate the genres, because we're into it,
right?
But for someone else everything's just sounds the same,
right?
Yeah, it's like, can you change the music because it's like it sounds the same? It's like, I don't know, it seems like a long song, so but
the culture is definitely a huge factor. I explain it like techno was kind of born from a counterculture originally and throughout like its early stages. It was like it was the underground. It was an answer to mainstream, whether it was politics or economics or anything else. It was also a group of people who didn't really fit in.
Yes.
And they didn't have a home and they didn't really know until they came out and they found the environment of a techno rave.
Yeah.
And they felt like they were home.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, like this whole boom, I think it happened in the 70s when disco was like the thing, because of obviously we just came from like the war from Vietnam in the 60s,
right.
and there was still some other things happening with racism in the East Coast, and
exactly.
so like
and LGBTQ,
yes, and all of that. So it was like a kind of like a, and honestly, that's what inspires us humans to be creative,
right?
Like some sort of like hardship,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So and that's where like all these things are born. Like this is what happened in Germany as well, like the whole thing with the wall.
Right.
And then that's where like kind of like they embrace more like the events and the parties and the music. But yeah, I think Detroit had a huge the whole East Coast, New York, Detroit, Chicago, like, from disco to house music to techno. All those new producers at that time, they just want to be different and they wanted to like play with these instruments and see what they can come up with, so I think that they started a movement that they didn't even think that was going to happen.
Exactly.
But how much of an impact they were going to be in future years,
The spirit of rebellion, I think pre-2010 maybe was strong. Or maybe pre-2000. I know I still have that kind of rebellious spirit today. And I think that's what sparks a lot of that music. Like I said, it's the undercurrent of like, hey, we're doing something different and we don't want to be like everybody else and the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just, well, as an artist, I think that you always want to inspire to be different, to be unique, to be yourself, to express yourself however you want to, and that's the beauty of art, that's the freedom that you have in art, that you can express yourself however you want, and it's okay. There's no such a thing as right or wrong. So, that's I think it's great for every single human being to be able to express themselves that way. Not just through art, but
How do you find yourself? How do you find yourself expressing yourself through your music?
It's interesting because like, you have moods, mm-hmm. you sometimes you feel down, sometimes you feel happy. Sometimes when you're playing in the room, you can feel the energy of the people. They're still tense, or they're still not, I don't know, they're a little bit too loose, or they're just in a very, whatever the mood that they're into, mm-hmm. that impacts me a lot, and that's how I tend to like play based on that. So if I don't feel the room, I'm just going to play like whatever. Mm-hmm. I cannot help it. It's just my natural expression,
Right.
Because, even though I prepare myself to go into this room and I'm going to play this way, when I get there, the energy is completely different.
Right.
And so now I have to like readjust myself and change my whole plan of DJing. Sometimes I don't even play any of the tracks that I selected to play for that event,
So let's get into that. Set prep.
Yeah.
And you do some set prep.
Yeah.
Like, what is your process?
It just depends, let's say that I'm playing at a very specific. Right now, I can give you a perfect example. I have my next upcoming gig is with Elation.
Yes. Let's talk about that real quick. He's go ahead. He's playing with Jay Lumen. April 25th
is coming up. April 25th at Disco Pussy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so for that, like I want to play something different, and I want to prepare myself a little bit differently than other times, where I want to go more abstract. I want to go more ambient. I want to go more chill. I know what he's gonna play, and the other kid, whoever's playing before me or after me, I'm not sure how they're gonna play, but I kind of have an idea based on like the local DJs,
right?
So I want to play differently, and that's what I'm gonna do. So for that, I definitely look for lots of newer artists, newer producers that are putting there. They have maybe like 1 or 2, 3 songs out there, and I want to hear what they're putting out. I always try to see what's new, and also I'm gonna go back to a lot of 90s stuff, early 2000s, like very like almost unknown artists that release maybe 1 or 2 EPs, and I never heard of them again, because there's so much great music. It's just like music is like fuck.
I know.
So hard to go through 1,000 songs and and like select like 2 or 3 of them. It's very, very hard. Like there's great music in different eras. So I want to prepare for that, and I want to play like something a little different. Now, when I get there, it could be something different.
Right.
As well, when I get there, like maybe like the energy is like extremely high, and I cannot play that.
Right.
Because
Elation crew is ready to rock early. I can tell you that. Like at 10 p.m.
This is the idea that I have about going like that and playing very chill.
Right.
But then when I get there and like if the energy is super high up, then I'm gonna have to change my strategy.
Yeah.
But that happens to me every time.
They're enthusiastic and they're ready to rock. So hey,
that's awesome.
And which is great, because sometimes when you open and people show up early, but they're not into their, party favors or their drinks enough, and they haven't loosened up, and it's your job to
get them loose,
which is like setting a groove.
And that's the other thing about Vegas too, is that it's such a chaotic place, and even in the scene as well, because it's not a scene that has culture,
right?
And I'm talking about not 5 years, 10 years, but like over 100 years or maybe 50 years of culture into music.
Right.
It's not like that. It's not like you're in a city like New York that's old as shit. Or maybe Paris, or like, somewhere around the world that have those very old cities that have so much culture, It's not like that. So, and what I mean when I say chaotic is that we have a mix of people from everywhere, from people that know their music to people that don't know their music, that they're just there for a great time or they're there with their friends. And so how do you cater to that kind of group of people?
Right.
This is the reason that I think Vegas is a very tough ground to play in. And at the same time is very easy. Okay. So easy in a way that you can just give them whatever you want, and maybe they'll pick it up or they don't, but nobody cares. Okay. And hard if you really want to cater to everyone and make everybody jump, you have to be really creative, I think.
Right.
So that the people that know their music, they're not going to complain about, oh man, he's just playing like all these pop songs or all these, EDM songs or whatever,
Yeah.
Or he played too hard or he played too slow, So, and so when you go to other cities, they have a little more culture, it's very easy for me to play in because I already know what they like, And
you've played in Paris,
yes,
Amsterdam.
Yes. Berlin, London, Madrid,
Tell us
Barcelona.
about your process going into those gigs, because every city is different,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah, every city is different, and also the gigs are different as well. The promoters are different, the venues are different. You get a different vibe in every single venue. You know, it's not the same. Even in Amsterdam, when they're in ADE, you know, every venue is different, and you get a different group of people. But yeah, it's for sure different. I feel like in a lot of those countries, you can always play those classics tracks, and they're gonna love them.
Yeah.
You know, versus here you play the classic tracks and it's like too classic, you know, or too played out.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I hear this all the time.
Those are pop. Like, no, I don't care for them.
Techno snobs much.
So, but yeah, I feel like then that's the beauty of places that have culture, is that you embrace the classics.
Sure,
you know, it's like just
that's interesting.
Like, yeah,
I didn't think about it that way.
And so, yeah, I mean, just playing in every different city. Obviously, some cities like it harder than others, but it's always great to like surprise them with a classic track. And it doesn't have to be techno. It doesn't have to be anything. You can play a pop track and they'll go crazy.
Right.
Or it could be a house track in your techno set, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's what I love to do is like to obviously shock the crowd or change the vibe, get him out of the trance for a quick second and then bring him back in, you know?
Speaking of trance, I was going to ask you, do you ever throw, do you like trance? Do you throw some trance?
I mean, obviously, if you grew up in the late 90s, you had to love trance because trance was as big as it is techno now. But, you know, the Tiestos, even Carl Cox was playing trance, Paul Oakenfold, Van Buren.
Yeah.
Armin Van Buren. So yeah, I grew up listening to trance too, and I had my trance phase as well. So yeah, like classics for me is like Train from like Tiesto, you know, and so yeah, sometimes I play like a Tiesto track in there, and nobody knows it's Tiesto,
right?
You know, because
the Tiesto from back in the day, and
yeah,
and it's so funny, you know, some new edits and remixes that are coming up are all the trance classics, and some people don't know them, and some people do.
I mean, and now you see it, you know, like I think even Charlie Witt or like the most pop techno artists right now, they're playing like they're marrying, you know, psytrance, trance, and hard techno into their sets, you know. And it's the era too of like this new generation that just came in that are pretty young as well, and not just young, but like also there's not much, especially here in the United States, there's not much like roots to electronic music. They just got introduced to electronic music, and so especially now with social media, it's like whatever they see in social media, it's like, oh shit, this is cool. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go to those shows, you know. And so I'm gonna like just go all out and this is the thing to do, is like dance like this, like the dance like that. But I feel like we were all at that point at one point in time as well. I mean, at least me, when I got into the rave scene in my early teens, I had no idea what techno was. I had no idea what trance was. I had no idea what any of these genres were.
Right.
I just went there because like, oh shit, I'm having a great time, you know, and I can pop a pill and makes me feel great, and I can meet girls and awesome, you know. I didn't care. And then, but eventually, little by little, you start like learning, you know, about the music, the DJs, the genres, and then you start getting pulled by that kind of music, you know. It's like you're creating amazing memories. So
it changed my whole life.
Yeah.
What I think about now is, as a younger person in the rave scene, and we're all wilding out, right? We were back in the day, and just as people are now.
Yeah.
But you don't realize the memories that you're creating at that time. You're having the best time and you're like, this is my family when you're on the dance floor. But what young people don't realize later down the road, they're going to look back at this time in their life and they're going to cherish those moments. Like, this one time. And they're going to have the same stories. And it's beautiful. I think that what the dance floor creates.
I think what music does, is to humans in general, it like allows them to store memories.
Right.
Because even you can prove this with someone that has amnesia, or no, what is it called?
Alzheimer's.
Even Alzheimer's, and what's the other one where you forget everything? It's kind of
amnesia.
Like amnesia, right? Okay, so Alzheimer's and amnesia. If you put them a pair of headphones with their favorite song when they were young, they automatically go back to those memories.
Yes.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's like how like the brain functions,
it remembers.
It remembers everything, like, or from that moment when they were like first heard the song, or, very, I guess, important moments for them.
I mean, there's some songs that come on and like say from 2000.
Yeah.
And I know exactly where I was.
Yes.
I was on the space patio in Miami. The sun was coming up and, this is like the people that I was with. And it's so nostalgic just hearing that one song that you haven't heard in 20 years. But it's like, it takes you back like that.
I see it a lot now. I DJ now in restaurants on the Strip. And I see it now with like just people that go have dinner, and they're old and they're like, oh my God, like the music that you're playing just brought me so many memories when I was young. You make me feel young again. I was like, oh, cool, thank you.
That's amazing.
But it's wild what music does to you. How it like it takes you back to that time.
Right.
So it's awesome.
Let's circle back. You mentioned ADE. Mm-hmm. So you did a party. An event in ADE. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
So the first time, I think when we met Pierre here in Vegas, I had him here. He played here for me. And then we decided to go to Amsterdam and do Techno Taco Tuesday in Amsterdam.
So you took Techno Taco Tuesday to Amsterdam and did a party there?
Yes.
That's epic. I didn't even know.
During ADE week. And so we partner up with Pierre. Mm-hmm. And so, because he does parties every year there. Mm-hmm. And so we did Techno Taco Tuesday with him, and we invited other friends. So we had Pierre, we had Jonico Viva, we had, I think, Third Son, we had a bunch of other artists, Christian Barella, I think we had him. We had, also we had, hold on, I'm spacing out. Anyways, we had a bunch of other artists there that night with us. I think we had like 8 DJs.
Wow.
And so, that was the first time. And then the second year in 2018, we did it with him again, but then we also did other parties during the week with other brands as well. Mm-hmm. Then we got to meet a local brand. At the time, they were like smaller promoters that were just kind of like starting, and they came out to check us out because they have heard of Techno Taco Tuesday, and so they were just wanted to like chat with me and see how I was doing it, because like he's like, oh my God, you have like this wild lineups, and like obviously in Amsterdam to get those guys is a little more expensive than here in Vegas. But they were just pretty impressed in how are you getting away with getting these lineups on a Tuesday night in Vegas, So we chat, and then we end up teaming up with them. And so we work with them in 2018, 2019, 2021, 22 with them. And so now we're just like really good friends. And so now they're like one of the biggest promoters in ADE. Mm-hmm. They work directly with ADE now. And so they have now like 20 venues. And so they just, they're killing it now. But But yeah, it was super cool to go through those experiences over there with them. And so in 2018, 2019, then we started doing like more events with different like local brands as well, and other DJs, headliners that we used to have here. And yeah, that's the cool part I think about AD is that everybody's there and everybody's like in a cool mood as well. And so it's very easy to like get people to play those parties, even though they're like super small, and because there's so many of them,
Right.
You have Awakenings too, that they're at the Cash Counter, and it's huge, It's like, and then that's not it. There is the Junkyard, or I forgot what it's called, but it sounds like something yard. So bad right now in my memory. I need music right now.
I know. I know Junkyard is a stage at LIB.
Okay, no, so
maybe a different.
Yeah, it's something yard. But it's huge. It has like maybe like 8 different stages. But they're massive. Like
Gotcha.
and it's like the whole weekend they're there. And there's like a shit ton of like huge warehouse events as well.
Right.
So there's just parties every single day and night, and it's wild to attend to all of them.
It's a lot. I'm hoping to go this year. So
fingers
crossed.
We're definitely gonna go this year.
Good.
Like last year I couldn't go because Katie was pregnant, but now we're gonna go with the baby.
That baby's gonna be well introduced to a lot of music.
Yeah.
So the other collabs you've done a lot, but notable in Vegas and other places. What's your favorites?
I think one is Richie. We collaborated with Richie Hutton in 2016. We did a party for the Saki brand, Enter Saki, at Marquee at the Boombox Room. I think that has a capacity for like 400 to 500 people. I think we put like 900, almost 1,000 people in that little room.
Is that right?
And it was amazing. It was on a Monday night too.
Wow.
So yeah, I had a call from his manager and was like, "Hey, will you be interested in collaborating with us on this event? Even though we know that you have your Tuesday night, and if that doesn't work for you, then we understand, But I was like, oh yeah, no, yeah, let's
You're
do
like,
it.
no, I'm too busy.
Yeah, I'm like, sorry, like, that's gonna affect my Tuesday night. So I was like, no, I can't do it. No, but yeah, so we did it, and it was awesome, And then the other one was with John Acoviva. He had a movie premiere here in Vegas at the Palms. The movie was Red Men, I think it's called. And it's wild. The movie is crazy if you get to watch it.
I don't know what it is.
Oh my God. It's about this DJ too. Okay. And he's just has these wild, crazy dreams. I think he goes too deep into acid and has this crazy experiences.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super weird movie to watch. I was just like,
sounds vaguely familiar now that you say that.
Yeah, so it's called Red Men. But if you get a chance, check it out. And so we did like the premiere with him, and then we did like the premiere party. We hosted the premiere party with for him, and it was awesome. I think we did it at the Palms at the Ghost Bar. Yep. And since then, like we started working together. And
such great views up there.
Yes, yeah,
so good.
Yeah, good memories too over there when it was like happening.
Yeah, yeah, that place was
cool.
popping. Yep.
Yeah, but it was a great memories that I had with both of them, and thankfully that I got to meet John, because John kind of helped me out a lot, throughout this years, and just with his experience about the business and about the scene and the world, and so he introduced me to tons of people as well. So it's
That's
crazy.
Great.
Once you get involved into that, I guess that group of people, the techno scene becomes extremely small,
right?
Worldwide. It's like if you get to meet like the key players of every country or every city. It's just so small, and then everybody knows each other, and then it's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about AI.
Yeah.
So a lot of talk about how AI is going to change music and production and simplify and this and that. And
yeah. I mean,
what are your thoughts?
AI and quantum computing, once quantum computing is here, is gonna change dramatically the way that things are done.
Right.
Even just from what I can remember playing around with like Ableton like 3.0 or Fruity Loops, I think it was like 4 or 3 as well, to where it is now. Oh my God, day and night, like it's just so much simpler to make music. It's so much easier to make music, you know. And the new things such as Push as well from Native Instruments, like it's such an easy tool to use to like make music and to create chord progression on that thing. It's like super easy to do that, you know,
right?
Versus before you had to do it like manually, and so that's a little bit harder. Especially if you don't have like music theory, or if you're not a real musician, then it's like it takes a little longer, you know. But yeah, no, I think it's going to help out a lot to like make music and make better music, I would say, especially for newer artists that are learning how to make music. It's going to be much simpler, and everything would be like very, very tuned, you know, in key, and I think in a way better maybe frequency, if I could say that.
Right.
Because I think the level of I would say the level of information that has AI is gonna be able to help us make better music.
So you think it's it's got a lot of pluses?
Definitely. Especially,
what's going to separate talent from just someone being able to put it in a generator?
The sad part about this is that the native talent and talent acquired by experience and work is irrelevant. It would be irrelevant because
isn't it already kind of?
It is, and you can see it. And you can see it. Think about like people. Let me put it to you this way: think about people that worked all their life to become a librarian, to know the books, how to organize the books. And then you come up with like Amazon or like an app that will replace a librarian.
Right.
So now you can go to the library and everything is sorted super easy to find, you know, like it gives you even suggestions in what books you might like, you know. So it's just like that, you know, it removes the human part of being, you know, maybe sacrificing their time to do a task that is pretty much irrelevant. It could be done by a robot or AI, you know, in this case. Now the human is free to do something else. So
that's true.
You know, I feel like for me, I think AI is going to be a great tool.
Right.
It's just like a computer. Yeah, you can use a computer to create a horrible program, or you can use a computer to do many great things. It's just whoever's using it. You know?
That's so true.
AI is going to be the same thing too. It's like whoever uses it, you can use it for good or for bad. But I think for music wise, I think it could definitely help.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the producers can agree in terms of like making things so much easier versus them spending 2-3 hours to just do arrangements or like do certain things in Ableton that will take them just they're tedious and it takes like a longer time.
Yeah.
Versus the computer can just do it for you, and then now you can save 2 hours of work.
Right. You have free time.
And now you can just focus more on like creating ideas of what kind of music you want to make.
Interesting.
So,
what do you think about? And I think this was a huge topic, probably around 2010 to 2012, where we saw a lot of people in our generation were DJs first.
Yeah.
And then they started producing.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of barriers to entry to like become a producer, right?
Yeah.
And you had to press records and, the record label, and there was a lot of cost to it. And then we saw a shift around 2010, maybe, where people were producers first and then, had to play DJ gigs after they produced. And there was a big conflict, I think, back then, a big discussion about that. And I'm starting to see, and I feel like it kind of died down a little bit, but I'm starting to see a little bit more of it now, or maybe I feel it now because I go out to the Strip and I see people who are really great producers and have really great songs. But I went to see a specific set. Yeah. And I was like,
it's garbage.
Where is the continuity?
Yes.
Like, is there a story to tell here? Or is there what happened to transitions? Is that a thing of the past in EDM? So like, what are your thoughts about should new producers learn and maybe be on the dance floor more to understand how to tell a story before they start DJing?
The way that I see it is this way. I got to experience it in 2006 and 2007 with a lot of new producers, not DJs, but producers that, because they love to make music, and this is right after high school because they couldn't buy any equipment or whatever. This is when like the controllers started to come out, you know, and then they would just get a controller plugged into a laptop. So it was very easy to like learn how to mix with syncing.
Right.
But they were like producing first, you know. And they'll come out, and then I feel like there's a second wave now of that. That was the first wave of like producers becoming DJs with, or people just becoming DJs with like a like a little what's it called? I just said it.
Controller.
Yeah. Sorry. And so what you lose there, or what you don't have the roots on, is how to maybe play for a room, you know? And it's not just playing music, but it's actually you have to connect with the room and understand how to move it. At the end of the day, it's like you become kind of like this, you have kind of like the remote control to control the whole crowd based on your music and how you play, right? So yeah, you can definitely tell a story, and then so that they can keep following you song after song, all the way to the end of your set, right? Or you can just do what the newer DJs do, is just play super hard without having to tell a story, and just try to keep them there on their toes,
right?
With very high energy kind of songs. And you can do that, but then a lot of people are going to get tired.
Right.
You know?
Right. There's an art to storytelling.
There is. It's kind of like a dance, you know? You give, you take, and it's like that, you know?
Exactly.
And so, but I feel that with the producers, there's also lots of people that are like very good with computers too, that spend a lot of time in the room with just in front of the computer. And so they can like learn a program pretty easy. And so they can start making music, and they can start expressing themselves that way. But they don't know, never been outside, inside of a club to feel the music, you know,
right?
To hear other DJs play. So they don't know that part. And for them to become DJs automatically, I mean, to be a DJ doesn't mean just to like play one song after the other. Like it's just, there's I think there's an art to it, you know, and I think
the song before and the song after are so important.
Yeah,
and a good DJ is going to take the audience on a journey with them.
The thing is, like, a lot of people don't, what maybe a lot of people don't understand is when they're in the club listening to music, or any place listening to music, their ear is pretty sensitive to the melodies. You know, if the melodies don't keep you into a trance, you're gonna wake up right away, and then you're gonna realize where you're at, and you need to go to the bathroom, or you need to go to the bar, or you need to go do something else. But if you don't wake up, if the melodies continue to go one after the other after the other, you're just gonna get stuck in the dance floor, and you're just gonna keep dancing. For some reason, you feel good there,
right?
But you don't know why, right? Because nobody pays attention. So. But that's the job of the DJ, is to continuously keep people on the dance floor, and eventually let them go, and then bring them back in.
Exactly.
Right? So, but I guess DJs that have experience, and they know how to do this pretty well. Or they can tell a whole story, you know, and they know how to pause themselves, you know.
Right.
But with someone that doesn't have that experience, that just learned how to do how to manipulate a program, how to use a program, and then create a music, and then for some reason it's great, or people like it, then that's awesome. But then I think then the same way that you learn the program, I think you should learn how to DJ first before you go out there.
Exactly.
But
be a spectator and
it doesn't work that way now. You know, I think it works better like. How funny you are in social media, or how many followers you have in social media, how engaging you are in social media. And then you can go and play whatever you want, and then people will be still super happy. So
right. Especially, I think it's amplified here in Vegas times 10.
Yeah, I think around the world too. I think it has helped a lot. Especially if you're I mean, no disrespect to women, but if you're a girl and you're an influencer, it's very easy for you to become a DJ.
Right.
Because then people will follow you. You already have a following. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? It's just like having a following, and you can be a president too, or you can be whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a DJ, but it just happens that right now, DJing is cool.
DJing is cool where it's at.
Yeah. So even, you know, it's funny. I just had like a person talk to me. He's like, yeah, I'm 50 years old, but, you know, I'm just thinking to become a DJ now. Like, do you think I have a chance? Like, everybody has a chance. Of course you do.
Wow.
You know, so it's like, just like figure it out. There's multiple systems in how to get up there. Very easy, you know, so.
Yes, that's so true.
But yeah, no, I think AI is going to help out. Like the whole new producer thing with new producers becoming DJs, I think it's awesome too. It's just, it all helps to change the music scene. Whether we like it or we don't like it, it's going to change regardless.
It's always evolving.
So it's always evolving, and somehow that's going to help out to evolve for the next generation to come and change things around too. So it's great. We just have to be able to, us that we have had some of the roots, I guess, and experience, we have to change as well.
I think that's true. I've seen a lot of DJs who were popular and probably did their thing in, like, say, the 90s or early 2000s. And they're the ones on social media kind of being antagonistic against other people. Like, well, I used to spin on vinyl 25 years ago, and, you know, or social media, this and that. And you do, whether you like it or not, like we lived in a different time, but like, this is what it is now.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't do much about it.
You know, as much as I don't like social media hardly, you know, to use it as much as I need to, but it's just a necessary thing that we have to do now, and you have to embrace it, or you're going to get.
Yeah. The thing is, like, everything is moving. You know, the universe is moving. We're moving. Everything is moving. Everything is growing. Everything is changing every single second of the day. So you have to understand that you have to change, and you have to leave the past in the past, and then just look for the future and leave the present. You know, it's like you have
evolve or die.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like what are you gonna argue with everyone else that you at one point in time you were 5 years old and you did so many things, and you want to be 5 years old now? You can't.
Right.
You're age now. You know, you can't be 5 years old again, or right now you can't. You know, so you have to grow and move and just embrace the new changes.
I love it. All right. That is all the time we have. So let's recap. You are playing at Disco Pussy April 25th.
25th, yes.
direct support for Jay Lumen for Elation.
Yes.
And then you have something chefed up for us for EDC week.
Yes, EDC week. I think it's going to be the 23rd, 21st, somewhere in there, whatever that Tuesday is. That's when we're planning to do that 10-year anniversary.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in and
thank you for having me. This was super fun.
This is awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.